It is finally here. I'm talking about 2 from Sleep Token and his drum kit with MixWave. Huge shout out to 2 from Sleep Token and MixWave for trusting me with this kit. This was so hard to keep on the DL. This kit is so sick. So if you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you learned something from this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you really like this video, leave a comment. I respond to all of the comments. These drums are insane. Everything you would expect from that 2 sound, tight snares, perfect washy cymbals that don't collide with the vocals, by the way, which is amazing. Don't forget, everybody, June 14th is right around the corner, and I'm doing my first ever YouTube members giveaway where you can win my Adams F7's studio monitors. Make sure to hit that join button on my member section where you immediately get access to all my past live streams, which is like 100 hours worth of content, mix chains, master chains, guitar bus secrets, drum bus signal chains, all kinds of cool stuff. And again, if you're new around here, make sure to join my free Discord community. It's pinned in the comments below. All right, boys, enough of this. I'm so psyched for you to check out my playthrough, and per usual, make sure you stick around for the tutorial where I give you a complete breakdown of how this kit works. So my first initial reaction to the Sleep Token kit is, wow, mind blown. So I'm going to give you a breakdown on the kit and let you know what my favorite things about the kit are. So when we load the Sleep Token kit into Kontakt, it's going to look like this. This is the interface. And I'm going to go through all the samples. I already have them routed, as you can see down here. And if you don't know how to route drums in Kontakt, I have a video on my website that shows you how to do that. And I have everything routed from the tom reverb to the snare shimmer to the snare verb, trash, room, china, effects, cymbals, ride, hi-hat, overheads, tom, snare, kick, all of it. And the reason why I do that is because I want everything to have its own channel so I can manipulate everything. This is the UI when you open up the kit view. You can go through the shells right here. Something I think is cool here, you have a left and right bass drum sample, which helps you when being a little bit more organic and authentic, which is what this kit is built around while still having that modern process sound. We're gonna start out with the kick drum. We have a 22-inch by 18 DW Collector Series Maple Mahogany. Sounds good. You don't even really need to blend any one-shots with this whatsoever. In fact, I am not. This is natural. Everything you're hearing in this mix right now, that's all 100% this kit, no one shots, which, you know me, that's very hard to do. I normally don't do that. I'm always blending one shots, but in this case, you don't need to because it just sounds great right out of the gate. One of the most appealing things about this drum kit is the snare drums. And I love that they just went full, tight, 13-inch snares all the way around. All the other drum VST companies are doing just pretty much thick snares here and there with like one tight snare. Sometimes it's like a Chris Adler snare or something like that. But in this case, they stuck to their guns, which I think is really cool because that's what Sleep Token's drumming is about. You want to hear that tight snare. In this case, we have 3 of them to choose from, which is so sick. So the first one is a custom shop Cherry 13 by 6.5, and it sounds like that. And I'll show you kind of what that one sounds like in the mix versus the one that I'm using because I'm not using this one, but this is what this one sounds like. Now, they all sound great. I just went with this one, which is the DW Collector Series Maple Walnut 13 by 6. This one cuts the best to me in the mix. I like this one probably the most. And the last snare in here is the DW Collector Series Steel 13 by 6.5. This one is the thickest out of all of them. Obviously, you could tell by looking at it, that's a thick snare. And I'll show you what this one sounds like in this same part. All of these snares are sick, man. Now, the most appealing part about this drum kit to me are these amazing cymbals. We're gonna start out with the hi-hat. I love that they are 13-inch hi-hats. So the smaller the hi-hats are, the tighter they sound when you clutch that hi-hat down. Therefore, with Two's drumming, it's gonna make it a little bit tighter and a little bit funner to do these cool accents that he's doing, and it totally translates as such in this drum kit, which is kind of the theme with these cymbals because you have a lot of stacks, trashes, that just sound great for accents, really jazzy drumming that really translates in this kit. So we got 13-inch hats. We've got a 10-inch splash. This is Istanbul. I think that's how you pronounce the company. The splashes are phenomenal. Really phenomenal. Next, we have a little Turk splash 10-inch. Sounds like a stack. Either way, I love this thing. I've been going crazy with the programming on these fills, as you guys can tell. Really trying to imitate Two's drumming with this stuff. Next is the Istanbul 8-inch splash. Love this thing. Next, we have the 16-inch. This is the crash with all the holes in it. I love this crash. And then the main left crash right here is a 17-inch. It's a dark traditional. Nice consistency here. Now, the ride is a 22-inch, which is freaking huge, right? So whenever you're crashing on this thing, the crash actually sounds sometimes even better, I'll show it to you really quick, than the actual crashes themselves when staying consistent on a part. Like, you know, it really just sounds awesome. I really like this crash ride here. It's big, it's got a nice bell. Your main crash right here is an 18-inch. Love that. Got that perfect amount of wash. Next is my favorite crash out of any drum VST. I will double down on that. Mark my words. This crash right here is the Istanbul Dry Dark Brilliant 19 crash. That is so sick. That's the best sounding crash I've ever heard. I love how there's not a ton of sustain. You just kind of get to the point. And that's the reoccurring theme with these Chinas too. Not a ton of sustain, which is my favorite. I mean, I didn't mess with any decay or any hold or anything. This is just right out of the gate. This is an 18-inch Turk. So good, so good. And then you match that with the 16-inch Turk China, which is essentially the bigger version of this. Sounds like the bigger version of that. This is just a recipe to go crazy with the accents and fills, of which I've done that. Next, we're going to look at the rack tom. So we got a DW Collector Series Maple Mahogany 10x7. Nice, sounds good. This rack tom sounds great, which is the second rack tom. This is the mid tom. This is the DW Collector Series Cherry Mahogany 12x8. Love it. Floor tom, I think we're looking at the same thing with the Cherry Mahogany 16x16. Nice and thick, love it. And then you have the sticks, which is a nice touch, nice addition here. I love that. So we've already went over the kit and the shells and the cymbals on the kit view. Let's go to mixer. This is the kick drum fader, snare fader, rack 1, rack 2, floor tom, hi-hat, which I love that the hi-hat is on its own channel. The ride, overheads, room, and the master drum bus fader. So up here you have your pans, and you also have your width when it comes to overheads and room as well. Didn't really do too much there. You don't really need to. This kit just kicks so much right out of the gate. The only thing that I really turned down here are the rack tom 1, because I want the floor tom to always be louder in rolls, and I'll show you what I mean right here. So we'll find a section. So listen to how you kind of want it to get louder as it goes down, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want that floor tom to be the most explosive part usually, at least I do. So therefore I took down the rack tom 1 down to -7, rack tom 2 is at -5, and I left the floor tom at 0, and it sounds like this. So down here, which I think is really cool and definitely worth mentioning, built-in compression, which is really cool. Built-in EQ if you want to EQ inside of Contact. Tape saturation, that's also cool. And let's just kind of see what that does really quick. We'll play with that tape saturation. There, we just cranked it all the way. I just want to hear that. Definitely gives it a nice touch, some nice flavor. Next, down here we have the snare reverb. So let's see what this does. Yeah, it definitely adds some cool little plate going on there, which I have routed as well. And then we have the snare shimmer, which is also cool. And I'll kind of show you what that sounds like. It gives it a little bit of that real authentic sound. Next, we got tom reverb, same thing. These are really cool additions that MixWave has added in, just so you don't have to create your own buses and apply some of this shimmer, this reverb, and this plate on any of these. You could just do it on contact on the interface, which is super sick. It's also worth mentioning on the overhead fader and the room fader, we have the width knobs, which is really cool. If you want to add a little bit of that stereo imaging effect, you could do it in here. I think that's really rad. You don't really need to. I think the overheads sound fantastic. I think that they were recorded very well. We're moving on to mixer number 2. This is a big deal. I can't express to you how big of a deal this is. The fact that these cymbals, you can route them on their own channels, especially with the splashes and the stacks and whatnot. I really love that. Sometimes splashes, since they're so small, they can tend to cut through a little bit more than the crashes because they have so much high end. So that's really cool. Such a good idea. Again, you can add compression EQ on these if you want. Next comes the settings. With the settings, you can load in your own map, which I think is really rad. If you have your own custom map and you want to build that yourself, you can hit this little red button and you apply your MIDI and it detects your MIDI and then it automatically syncs your MIDI to that keynote, which is awesome. Saves you so much time like manually moving it. Next comes the groove. So if you want to play with 2, you totally can. Here is how to do that. There's a built-in MIDI groove player right here, which is awesome. I think that's rad. You can slow it down. You can speed it up. Super intuitive stuff. So if you're not good at programming drums or if you don't have a lot of experience at that, this is a feature worth checking out. So you already heard these drums in a mix in the beginning of this video. So I'm going to show you these drums soloed now so you can really hear how good they are, okay? So huge shout out to MixWave and 2 from Sleep Token for trusting me with this kit and doing this tutorial for you guys. The kit is pure quality. So do yourselves a favor and pick up this Sleep Token 2 MixWave kit. You don't need a ton of processing whatsoever, really. But if you like the way my session sounds, then be sure to check out dustybowls.com where you can purchase this session and start writing bad music right away with 2 from Sleep Token. And be sure to join that YouTube membership section where you immediately get access to all my backlogged live streams, which is like 100 hours worth of content. I also do members only giveaways. In fact, we're doing one on June 14th where you could win my Adams F7 studio monitors. I'll see you guys in that YouTube membership section. Thanks guys. Peace.